What's up everyone, Bella here, your favorite content creation specialist over at Self-Publishing School, and today we're going to be talking about one of the biggest decisions you will make as an author. And that's whether or not you should pursue traditional or self-publishing. There's major differences between the two, and thanks to technology just blowing up, we all have the opportunity and the ability to publish a book on our own. So how do you decide? Do you go with the traditional publishing route or do you do self-publishing? We're going to help you figure it out by comparing the two, because the more knowledge you have, the better decision you can make about what works for you and yourself and your career. Let's start with self-publishing. So what is self-publishing in the first place? Well, self-publishing is just the process of publishing a book, but completely on your own. You do not go through any other places other than your distribution channel, which is mostly Amazon, in order to get your book published. There's no agents, there's no publishing deal, there's no upfront payment. You publish it on your own through your own means. So with self-publishing, what are you responsible for doing if you have to do everything? Well, you're responsible for everything, from the writing to getting an editor, getting a cover designer, getting it properly formatted, and all put together. Everything is your responsibility, and that doesn't mean you have to do everything by yourself. You hire people to do the things that you cannot. It just means that there's nobody else controlling everything. That being said, what does self-publishing school cost? Now, there are a few different expenses that you'll incur as a self-published author, but those are your editing, your cover design, your formatting, those types of things that you cannot do yourself. We at least don't recommend that you design your own cover, even if you're a cover designer, just because a fresh set of eyes and other perspective can make it a little bit better. So the cost of self-publishing does vary quite a bit depending on what you get and what you are actually looking to pay. I highly recommend doing some research, and if you're a self-publishing school student, we actually have a Rolodex of editors, formatters, cover designers that we love, trust, and they have a great price. And if you're not a student, Google, Upwork, Fiverr, all of those are great options for finding prices that are within your price range. All right, enough about what you have to pay. How much will you get paid as a self-published author? The great thing about self-publishing is that you get to keep all the royalties. Aside from what Amazon will take away for their distribution funds, you get to keep the rest of it, which means if Amazon takes 30 to 40%, you get 60 to 70% of your own royalties, which is about 50% more than traditionally published authors. So although you do have to pay more upfront, you get more back for the work that you've put in. Another great thing about self-publishing is that the amount that you're paid is directly correlated to how much work you want to put into selling your novel. You don't have to wait for the publisher to hit the green light on anything. Marketing-wise, you do it all yourself, which means that you can sell more books if you put in a little bit more work, or if you have the right strategy. And if you're somebody who's looking to self-publish and you need a little bit of help and you're not quite sure what the process looks like, we do have a training down below that can take you through those details. So click below, save your spot if you're interested in self-publishing. So what about the other side? What about traditionally published authors? What is so intriguing about being a traditionally published author? The biggest reason people want to be a traditionally published author versus a self-published author is mostly just so they have the title. Becoming a traditionally published author takes a lot of other steps, and you have to go through a lot of people approving of your work in order to get published. You have the extra step of getting an agent, and that agent then has to pitch your manuscript to different publishing houses, and your agent is responsible for negotiating your pay percentages, and keep in mind your agent does take a cut as well. But that extra step and those few extra steps, one, makes traditional publishing a lot longer to get through, and two, it leaves a lot of control up to everybody else and not so much you. So let's get into what you're responsible for traditional publishing. With traditionally published authors, you are mostly responsible for the writing and hitting your deadlines and turning in your work when your agent or your editor says it's time to turn it in. That's really the only responsibility that you have. And then you also have editing those changes that your editor wants you to make. But that's really it. You do still have to do a lot of the marketing with traditionally published authors, and that's something that a lot of people don't understand. So just because you have a publishing house backing you doesn't mean you're going to get their entire marketing team backing you as well. Advertisements cost money, and so a publishing house is more likely to create ads for books that are already performing well. They're more likely to put forth their money when they know that they're going to make it back in return. With new authors, that's not always the case. And so you might get a little bit of help in the marketing department as a new traditionally published author. You still have to do the majority of the heavy lifting marketing-wise all by yourself. So does that mean it costs anything? Other than a lot of time? Not really. If there's any traditionally publishing houses, again, that are telling you to pay them money, it is a scam. Traditional publishing requires you to not pay anything up front. That being said, there is a large cost of time due to the long process of traditional publishing. It can take sometimes 2 to 3 years for your book to go from accepted manuscript to published. And that's just because of the process traditional publishers have in place. So how much does being a traditional published author pay? This number scales greatly because there's a very small percent, I think it's about 1% of authors are the big money earners, right? So these are the George R.R. Martins, the J.K. Rowlings, Stephen Kings, and these authors are the ones who get the really large advances up front. As a new traditionally published author, you will make between $5,000 and $15,000. That will be your first upfront payment typically. Now, you could be one of those 1%ers who gets the $1 million deal, but that's not typically how traditional publishers pay. And keep in mind, this $5,000 to $15,000 has to last you the entire process of getting your book published, and then you start earning royalties. So you get this lump sum right up front, and then nothing until the book is published, where you then will earn royalties, and the percentage you get of your royalties varies greatly. For example, if you are publishing a hardcover book, you might get 10% of the royalties for the first 5,000 copies, and then 12.5% for the remaining copies that are being sold for the rest of its lifetime. These deals are negotiated by your agent and the publishing house, and obviously you get a say in them, but these vary greatly. The big thing to take away though is that your agent does get a cut, and you only get a small percentage of the book since you are only writing it, which that is the most work, I think, but traditionally publishers put in a lot of money to the book, and so they take it back as well. A couple pros of traditional publishing is that you get paid up front to some degree. You only really have to worry about writing and some marketing, and you do get a little bit of marketing backing behind you. There are a few cons with traditional publishing as well. First of all, the book is technically no longer yours, which means the publishing house can halt production and sales whenever they want to, and you can't self-publish it because the traditional publishing house technically owns your book. The second con is that you lack a lot of control over your story, the cover, the title. Even your characters can be changed to meet whatever the publisher wants you to do. And if you don't do this, they can then not go forward and publish your book. Therefore, you lose a little bit of creative control. And if you're okay with that, then that's fine. The last con is that this process can take a long time. It can take anywhere from 2 to 3 years from the process of you querying to actually getting published, or even longer if you can't find an agent very quickly. Your job is to figure out which is best for you and what fits the needs that you have as an author. Staying informed will help you make the best decision. And that's all I've got for you. Make sure to give this a like if you learned something new, and comment down below which you want to pursue, traditional publishing or self-publishing. And also tell me why. What makes you decide that you want to be a traditional published author? What makes you decide to be self-published? Comment those down below, and check out our free training so you can learn more about the self-publishing process. The link is down in our description. Thank you guys. I will see you next time.
Everyone has a story to tell. You know, my name is Rosemarie Chauvin, and the name of my book is My Warped Italian Catholic Childhood. And I joined self-publishing school in August, and it's the best thing I could have ever done. All the writing courses I've taken, all the clubs I've joined, nothing has ever taken me through the step-by-step. I'm actually, like I said, hold you by the hand and walk you through every step of the way. Self-publishing school is going to be where you're going to achieve your goals, you're going to become a published author, and you're going to have a bestseller.